Hey, what is going on, guys? It's Young here, and today I'm back in our Fortnite video. In today's video, I'm going to be going over the best exponential settings to use. And I did a video on legacy, and I also did a video on linear settings. So I thought I'd do a video on exponential because I know there's a handful of you guys who do use it, or maybe want to try it out. So I'm going to give you guys my recommended settings for it and exactly the pros and cons of using this setting. And before we get into the video, I'm going to be giving away 2,000 V-Bucks. So if you guys want a chance to enter this giveaway and win some free V-Bucks, all you guys need to do is to drop a like on this video. Make sure you guys do subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications, and as well leave a comment down below of either your Xbox gamer tag, your PSN gamer tag, or Epic account. And you guys will automatically be entered into my next giveaway. So if you guys want some free V-Bucks, make sure you guys do enter the giveaway. And alright guys, let's go right to the video. Alright, so in this video, I wanted to be going over exponential, and the biggest reason why, like I said, I haven't covered it yet. I've done legacy, I've done linear, I've covered all the best settings for those. If you guys haven't seen those videos, definitely check them out if you are looking for some really good legacy or linear settings. But for exponential, I haven't really covered on it too much because I really haven't used it a whole lot in game. I've tried it out a little bit. And personally, I prefer either legacy or linear, but there is a handful of you guys who do like exponential. It's kind of a mix between the both of legacy and linear. It's kind of like in between the middle because you have a linear type aim assist, but you also do have that analog or that small analog stick movement that you would have on legacy. So it is a good in between for those guys who do like that. And when it comes to the sensitivity that I chose when it came to exponential is I basically had my linear settings and then I upped it a little bit. I didn't go too crazy, but when it comes to exponential, you want to raise your sensitivity up just a little bit. And the reason being is because when you have that small analog stick movement, you have a lot more control just over everything in general. So you probably want to raise your sensitivity up just a little bit because when you have it on the lower side, it can be sometimes feel a little bit lower, especially when you go from, if you do currently play on linear and you move to exponential, it'll feel a little bit more stiff. It's not as bad as legacy, but it will probably take just a little bit of time to get used to. But the one really good thing that I like about exponential as opposed to linear is I really like how you do have that, you have a little bit more long range capability, because when it comes to linear, it's just non-existent. When it comes to long range shots, I mean, you are literally just praying that your shots are going to hit. They're very, very hard to control. But when it came to my X and Y, I played on about a 56. I would recommend anything from like a 50 to like a 65, because on linear, I play on 48% on both. But on exponential, I bumped it up to 56. That felt pretty comfortable to me. But of course, when it comes to choosing the best sensitivity for yourself, everyone's a little bit different. Some people like a little bit higher. Some people like a little bit lower. Personally, when it comes to sensitivity through literally any game I've ever played, if you're talking about Call of Duty, Fortnite, literally every game that I've ever played, I definitely tend to stick a little bit more on the lower side of sensitivity, because when it comes to aiming, I feel like that's just a huge advantage, and I feel like I'm able to hit my shots a lot easier. So hovering over the lower side of sensitivity personally has been it's just a preference for myself. And I know a lot of you guys, I have friends that like a little bit higher sensitivity, so they'll probably play on or honestly, I've met people that play on quite a bit higher than me, and their aim is still good. But personally for me, I like to play on a little bit on the lower side. So whenever you see any of my settings videos or sensitivity, I usually play, I mean, I've started to play a little bit in the middle now, because Fortnite, you have building and editing. It's not just 100% aiming. So I will play sometimes like in the middle, I guess, for sensitivity. But usually I do hover and gravitate towards the lower end, just because I feel like my aim is just 10 times better on there when it comes than a higher sensitivity. Because on higher sensitivity, I feel like my aim is just all over the place. I'm not able to hit shots. So also another thing is I don't have any boost on whatsoever. And because if you move boost on, you're basically playing on legacy, and the legacy aim assist is when it comes to range, which is the biggest advantage that you have from linear to exponential, is you do have a lot better long range. But if you put on a boost on, you're basically having a watered down legacy, so it doesn't really make any sense. So you want to have no boost whatsoever. And my ADS sensitivity was on a 14%. Then again, I feel like that's kind of in the middle. I've seen some people above a 20, and then I've talked to friends that have theirs at like 8, which I think is way too low. So, I mean, I guess when you're choosing Exponential, you really do want to focus on those range shots, meaning that you probably want to have on the very, very low end of that ADS sensitivity. So you probably want to have maybe like a 12%, 11%, maybe even like a 10% is probably going to be your best bet, because the reason why people would switch to Exponential is you have kind of a linear feel, but also at the same time, you can hit long range shots. So if you want to hit long range shots, you want to have a significantly lower aim down sight sensitivity. So you really want to make sure that your aim down sight your ADS sensitivity is going to be on the lower end. That's going to allow you to hit way more shots a lot easier. And also, another thing that I noticed that I really, really liked is the tracking feels a lot better and a lot smoother on Exponential. Because when it comes to Legacy and Exponential, the aim assist strength that you have is exactly the same, nothing changes. But when you do play on Exponential, like I mentioned earlier, your analog sticks, when it comes to those small movements when you're adjusting just a little bit, it's a lot stronger. I mean, a lot stronger in Exponential than linear, meaning that it's going to be way easier to track other players. So even though the aim assist strength technically is the same, playing on Exponential means that you're going to be a lot more accurate because you're going to make small adjustments that are just ultimately going to help you hit a lot more shots. So even though the aim assist strength is completely the same, it feels definitely a lot stronger on Exponential when it comes to tracking when you're aiming down your sights. So that is a huge advantage. The aim assist definitely feels a little bit stronger in that aspect. And one of the things that I had on linear is going to be look dampening time. Now, this is something that I had up on linear because I feel like these small analog stick movements are a little bit harder. And this is kind of like, it's hard to explain. Basically, just jack it up and you can see for yourself. It feels almost like a little bit of a dead zone. It kind of delays your analog stick just a little bit, not too much to the point where it just feels super delayed, but it's just like just a little bit to the point where if you're playing on linear, it helps with your aim. I made like a whole video on it. I thought it was very, very helpful. But with Exponential, I really didn't really see a use for it because you already have the small precision aim that you would normally want to have on linear. So I really didn't have any use for it. So I just turned it off. If you want to have it on like a 12 or 13, I mean, go for it. You can try it out, see if you like it, see if you don't. But personally, I just have it off. I really didn't see any use for it. So pretty much I have all the boost off, and I also have look dampening time off. Like I said, I had that on linear because it helped with aiming from a little bit of a distance. So if you do like it, I mean, I recommend giving it a try, but you may like it and you also may not. It just really depends on personal preference. I just prefer to have it off on Exponential. And so one big disadvantage that you have on Exponential as opposed to linear, and some people can work around it just on Legacy, people can work around it, but the flick shots, when it comes to going for flick shots with your shotgun, it is going to be a little bit weaker on Exponential than opposed to linear, because linear, everything's 100% consistent, meaning that when it comes to any sort of flick shots, things like that, it's very, very consistent and easy to hit time and time again. But on Exponential and Legacy, of course, you can still hit flick shots very consistently, but when it comes to linear, it's just way easier to hit flick shots. So that's probably one of the biggest disadvantages of playing on Exponential, which really isn't like a deal breaker, because when it comes to flick shots, if you are very accurate at the game, you're still going to be able to hit them no problem, but playing on linear is going to be much easier to do so. So that's one of the biggest cons that I noticed with Exponential. Not really a deal breaker once you really get used to how the aim assist works, but that's just something to keep in mind. So my dead zone is 11%, 8%. I always recommend having your dead zone as low as possible without having any stick drift. But when it comes to linear and Exponential, you actually do want a little bit of a stick drift. I made a video on it a week ago on the one setting that you should change on linear, and I explained why when you have a extremely low dead zone and you have a little bit of stick drift, it actually gives you an increase on your aim assist. So you basically, even if you're not moving your analog stick, it can still track the other player, which is extremely OP and extremely good. So for that, your right analog stick, you want to have a dead zone that gives you just a little bit of stick drift. You don't want to be too crazy. If you have some really busted up controller, then of course you don't want to have your dead zone so low that it's just drifting all over the place, but just a little bit, because as long as you get a little bit of stick drift, then it's going to track the other player a lot better. So that's what I would recommend having. It's very good, very OP, and has been something that I've changed, and I've seen a big improvement on my aim just from that one simple change. And with that being said, that'll wrap it up for this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you guys liked it, make sure you guys do drop a like. Make sure you guys do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on my post notifications so you guys are notified for every single new video. And alright guys, I'll see you next video.